The film set buzzed with frantic energy. The air was thick with BO, cigarette smoke, the faint metallic whirl of film reels. Bright lights illuminated actor John Holmes. His thin, towering frame commanded attention. He moved with ease, a man who knew he was at the top of his game. A sly grin played on his lips as he bantered with the crew. He was in the zone, a king holding court. John Holmes was bigger than life, in more ways than one. This wasn't just another shoot. It was a moment frozen in time, testament to Holmes' reign at the top. He felt invincible. Fame and adoration coursed through him like a drug. In the early 1970s, he was a household name. Films like Deep Throat, Behind the Green Door, and The Devil and Miss Jones helped to make mainstream. In the 70s, it was hip for both guys and girls to watch blue films at seedy movie theaters, even on a date. Well, unless you're Betsy from Taxi Driver. John Holmes. His career was at its peak. At one point, he was making $1,000 a day. Adjusted for inflation, that's like making $7,600 for a day's work today. His name was as famous as Hollywood's brightest stars. His lifestyle was pure and rock and roll. Parties, excess, power. He was at the right place at the right time. But fame has a price. By the early 80s, that price was steep. Addiction, debts, the dark side of Hollywood's underbelly dragged him down. He wasn't untouchable anymore, and that's when he made his fatal mistake. He crossed paths with the Wonderland gang. Let's delve into the dark underbelly of Tinseltown, exploring the chilling events of the Wonderland and the key players. The well-endowed kid from Ohio. John Holmes was a name everyone knew. Born John Curtis Estes on August 8, 1944, in Asheville, Ohio. His other monikers included Johnny Wad, Big John, and John Footlong. His outlandish lifestyle and wild parties made him Hollywood royalty. And he threw wads of cash around like he was giving candy to trick-or-treaters. Remember his payday of $1,000 a day? Well, this dude was spending $1,500 a day on debauchery. But by the early 1980s, it all came crashing down. Freebasing made him a hollow shell of himself. His fortune was gone. His career was fading faster than autumn leaves in winter. And worst of all, he had debts, owing money to people you don't want to mess with. As desperation grew, Holmes made one final, fateful decision. He found himself wrapped up with the Wonderland gang, an unhinged group of criminals who ruled their little slice of Los Angeles with an iron fist. These were not your run-of-the-mill criminals. They were dealers, yes, but they had a thirst for something darker. And when they set their sights on Eddie Nash, a criminal kingpin of LA, a man feared even by the baddest of the bad, they were about to unleash a storm. The question was, would Holmes survive this dangerous game? On July 1st, 1981, the horror unfolded. The blood-soaked walls of the Wonderland house told a gruesome story. 4 victims, brutally their bodies twisted and contorted in unnatural poses. A 5th victim, barely alive, suffered such severe brain damage that the terror she witnessed would remain etched in her mind forever. This was not just it was a message, a warning to anyone who dared to cross Eddie Nash. And at the center of it all stood John Holmes, once untouchable, now an accomplice in one of LA's most infamous mass. The Wonderland gang were deeply entrenched in LA's underworld, operating from a townhouse at 8763 Wonderland Avenue, hidden in the shadowy depths of Laurel Canyon. The late 70s and early 80s were a fever dream in LA. The streets were virtually paved with and every vice that made the city a party playground. Wonderland wasn't just a house, it was a hub of crime, a constant cycle of hustling, burglaries, and life on the edge. Joy Miller, who leased the house, was both a ringleader and an addict, her addiction fueling the chaos. The house was a revolving door of crime, with moving in and out at all hours. Neighbors, of course, witnessed it. Shady figures lurking in the dark, music blaring at dawn, but no one dared complain. At the top of the gang was Ronald Lee Ron Launius, a Vietnam War veteran with a dark past. Crime wasn't just his lifestyle, it was his lifeblood. Dishonorably discharged from the Air Force, Launius had allegedly smuggled from Vietnam, using the coffins of dead soldiers. His criminal record was staggering. 27 unsolved linked to his name. The police had their eyes on him, but he was a ghost, slippery, impossible to pin down. In 1974, he was charged with the of a police informant, but the case fell apart when a key witness was gunned down. Launius never flinched, even with a to his head. He stayed cool. Right beside him was Billy Deverell, his right-hand man, a crane operator turned hardened criminal. 13 arrests later, Deverell was trapped between his addiction and the lure of fast money. Some saw him as a lost soul, but others saw a walking threat. Cross him, and you'll live to regret it. But Wonderland wasn't just run by men. Joy Miller wasn't just an addict. She was a queenpin. 7 arrests. At one time, she was living a life of luxury and married to a Beverly Hills attorney. Then came cancer, a double mastectomy, and a plunge into addiction that took everything from her. By the time she ran Wonderland, she had nothing left to lose, and that made her dangerous. David Lind, a biker, an Aryan Brotherhood affiliate, and a criminal rap sheet that made War and Peace look like a pamphlet. Armed burglary, forgery, even with intent to commit. His partnership with Lonnie started in prison and extended into the streets. Lind helped expand the gang's operations, traveling from Sacramento to LA, pushing deeper into the criminal underworld. Then there was Tracy McCourt, the quiet driver. His nickname was Titmouse Tracy, just a nobody in the gang, until the night everything changed. He was supposed to join the robbery at Eddie Nash's house. But when Lind confiscated his firearm, McCourt found himself stuck in the car, an outsider to the chaos inside, a silent observer to a tragedy that would define them all. The Wonderland gang thrived on crime, ambition, and greed, but their biggest mistake was targeting Eddie Nash. Alfred Molina's character in Boogie Nights, Rahad Jackson, was modeled after Nash. And let me tell you, he had some big shoes to fill. Eddie Nash, the kingpin of kink. Born Adel Gharib, Nasrallah in Palestine, Nash wasn't just a criminal, he was a problem. After immigrating to the U.S., he built an empire. Nightclubs, power, fear. His most notorious establishments, the Kit Kat and 7 Seas, weren't just for entertainment. They were dens, catering to celebrities, thugs, and everyone in between. But Nash's reach went beyond his discos. Whispers of followed him, stories of victims buried in the desert, teeth removed to prevent identification. He was protected by corrupt officials, enforcers, and fear itself. Untouchable, or so he thought. The Wonderland gang saw Nash as the ultimate mark, the heist of a lifetime, a chance for dominance in the drug trade. To pull it off, they needed an inside man. John Holmes penetrates the scene, a legend turned fiend, and a once famous star is now caught up in addiction. Holmes was a regular in Nash's world, always sniffing around for offering favors. Like I said, a fiend. The gang eventually coerced him into doing grunt work. His job was to get up and open the door for people coming in, cleaning around the house. On June 29, 1981, the plan was set in motion. Holmes, method acting as a desperate addict, visited Nash's home a few times that morning. On his last visit, he unlocked a sliding glass door. The trap was set. That night, Lonius, Deverell, Lind, and McCourt made their move. They stormed the house, posing as police officers, weapons drawn, masks on. They subdued Nash and his bodyguard, Gregory Dials, with brutal blood, madness, and screams ensued. The gang looted over $1 million worth of cash, drugs, jewelry, and weapons. Dials took a wound but survived. The Wonderland gang thought they made a big score, but their euphoria was short-lived. Eddie Nash wasted no time orchestrating his revenge. He immediately suspected John Holmes' involvement in the robbery, especially after his bodyguard, Gregory Dials, reported seeing Holmes wearing some of Nash's stolen jewelry. This guy.
You're not very bright.
Nash's men abducted Holmes, bringing him to Nash's residence, where he endured a brutal interrogation. Under immense physical duress, Holmes snitched. He revealed the identities of the Wonderland crew involved in the heist. Nash's intent was clear: retrieve his stolen assets and send a chilling message to anyone who dared to cross him. In the early hours of July 1st, 1981, just 2 days after the robbery, assailants entered the Wonderland Avenue house. Armed with hammers and metal pipes, they unleashed a level of violence that shocked even seasoned investigators. The attackers moved methodically, their victims with such ferocity that the crime scene became one of the most gruesome in LA history. Ron Lonius was found on his bed, his head battered so severely that fragments of his brain were found on the walls. He was so high on that he never even woke up. Beside him, his wife, Susan Lonius, lay gravely injured but miraculously alive, though she would later suffer from permanent amnesia. Billy Deverell and Joy Miller were found in another bedroom, their bodies similarly. Barbara Richardson, who had been sleeping on the living room couch, was also brutally. The sheer savagery of the attacks left the crime scene drenched in blood, with investigators noting that the level of violence pointing to a personal motive. Despite the brutality of the and the evidence pointing to Nash's involvement, bringing him to justice proved difficult. In 1990, Nash was charged with planning the but the trial ended with a hung jury due to an 11-to-1 vote for conviction. Liberace's lover, Scott Thorson, was a key witness for the prosecutor in the case, that he witnessed John Holmes being tortured in Nash's house for information. A subsequent trial in 1991 resulted in acquittals for both Nash and his bodyguard, Gregory Dials. Years later, in 2000, after a 4-year joint investigation involving local and federal authorities, Nash was arrested and indicted on federal charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The charges included trafficking, money laundering, conspiring to carry out the Wonderland and bribing the lone holdout juror from his first trial. Nash was by this point in his 70s and suffering from emphysema and other health issues, so he signed off on a plea bargain agreement in September 2001, pleading guilty to RICO charges and to money laundering. He admitted to bribing the juror and acknowledged directing his associates to retrieve the stolen property from the Wonderland house, which might have led to violence, including. However, he continued to deny explicitly ordering the. Nash was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison and was released in 2002. He passed away in 2014 at the age of 85, obviously taking many secrets to his grave. The Wonderland have since become a grim legend in Los Angeles history, symbolizing the deadly intersection of crime and betrayal. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, reflecting its enduring notoriety. The 2003 film Wonderland, starring Val Kilmer as John Holmes and Eric Bogosian as Eddie Nash, dramatized the events leading up to and following the. More recently, in 2024, a docu-series titled The Wonderland Massacre and the Secret History of Hollywood re-examined the crime, delving into new theories and shedding light on the darker aspects of this Hollywood saga. Despite the passage of time, the case remains officially unsolved, serving as a haunting reminder of the brutal realities of LA's criminal underworld in the early 80s. The story of the Wonderland Gang is a cautionary tale about the perils of greed and betrayal. Believing they could outsmart a powerful crime lord like Eddie Nash, they underestimated the deadly consequences. Their tragic end serves as a stark reminder that in the world of crime, crossing the wrong person can lead to one's own demise. John Curtis Holmes died on March 13, 1988, from medical complications due to AIDS. John Holmes was extradited to Los Angeles and in March of 1982 was charged with personally committing all 4. After a 3-week trial, Holmes was acquitted on all charges except committing contempt of court on June 26, 1982. Fun fact, this trial was the first in which videotape was introduced as evidence. The luck on this guy is crazy. What do you think drove John Holmes to make such a dangerous decision? Drop those comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories. Crush Unit would like to thank you for your continued support. Peace.